There are moments in the galaxy that defy logic, sanity, and every rule printed in a survival manual. One such moment arrived when Commander Jyn of the Torkellian Salvage Guild stood outside a half-buried Earth vault labeled in aggressive red paint. Top secret. Absolutely do not open. Seriously. And still, with the same suicidal optimism that led him to eat expired Martian noodles last week, Jyn turned to his crew, gave a confident nod, and said, "Well, what's the worst that could happen?" 15 seconds later, the door hissed open, and the worst walked out, naked, screaming, and wielding an antique coffee maker like it was Thor's hammer. The air inside Vault 88 was thick with cryovapor and abandonment. Warning lights flickered dimly as if even they were unsure whether to sound an alarm, or just sigh and give up. The salvage team, 2 reptilian twins named Vrap and Vrup, a floating cube called Kinks, and Jyn, had been exploring Earth's buried military bases for salvageable tech. Earth had gone dark centuries ago, mostly abandoned after its inhabitants either nuked each other or ascended to upload their brains into cloud-based utopias. So when their ship's scanners pinged something massive and still drawing power under Antarctica, Jyn's prophet sensors tingled. What they didn't expect was a 7-foot-tall, muscle-wrapped human launching himself out of a cryochamber with all the subtlety of an exploding comet. His eyes glowed faintly blue, his hair was matted in patches like a defrosted werewolf, and he screamed one word over and over. "Hostiles!" Before anyone could ask, "Who's hostile?" the man drop-kicked Kinks across the hallway, turned a ceiling panel into shrapnel using a cafeteria tray, and then pinned Jyn to the wall with a vending machine door. "I don't know what resistance cell you're from," the man growled, voice rough like gravel in a blender. "But I'll die before I betray the mission." Jyn, in a choking voice and a thick alien accent, replied, "Friend, I do not even know what a mission is." After several tense, bruising minutes and a barrage of apologies and explanations, and after someone handed the man a towel, he finally relaxed. Barely. The man's name was Captain Rex Caden, former soldier of Earth's last military experiment, Project Pandora. Cryogenically frozen in 2058 after something referred to only as the Helsinki incident. Rex was supposed to be decommissioned, forgotten, erased. But apparently, someone forgot to lock the vault tight enough. Or worse, someone unlocked it on purpose. Rex was a relic from a past the galaxy never bothered to remember. He was everything Earth wanted in a super soldier: enhanced strength, tactical genius, metabolic resilience, and emotional control. Unfortunately, they only nailed 3 out of 4. Rex had emotional instability like a Shakespearean drama kid with a grenade. And now here he was, standing in the ruins of the base that betrayed him, among aliens who didn't even know what a grape soda was. The days that followed were chaos laced with awkward bonding. Jyn's crew wanted nothing more than to leave Earth and sell whatever they could salvage. But their ship had been accidentally destroyed by Rex when he tried to disable the enemy dropship during a PTSD-induced flashback. So now they were stuck with him. And he stuck with them. Blip, the ship's SAS-loaded translator AI, was the only one Rex seemed to like. Blip's personality, programmed somewhere between a disgruntled therapist and a sarcastic sitcom character, found Rex primitive, dangerous, but oddly charming. Blip began helping Rex reacclimate to reality, teaching him galactic slang, showing him footage of what happened to Earth. Long story short, everyone either died, digitized themselves, or moved to Jupiter's moon to evade philosophy. As they explored the base, Rex tried to reconnect with pieces of his shattered past. He found his old locker, containing a dog tag, a cassette of 90s sitcom laugh tracks, and a faded photo of a dog with the name, Biscuit, scribbled on it. His only real friend, long dead. When Jyn asked about the dog, Rex only replied, "He never questioned me. Unlike the rest of the world." Meanwhile, something about the vault kept nagging at Jyn. Vault 88 had been sealed for a reason, and it wasn't just to keep Rex in. Hidden behind an old generator, they discovered another chamber. This one was darker. Iced over. The words on the panel had been scratched out, but the lights blinked red. A quick scan confirmed it had been opened, recently. Rex froze. There was another one. What do you mean, another? JYRN asked, already knowing he wouldn't like the answer. Subject K9. Codename, Ghost. She was faster than me. Smarter. Meaner. Rex looked around the frozen vault. We trained together. Fought together. She disappeared during the Helsinki op. I thought she died. But if that pod's empty... JYRN completed the sentence grimly. She's out there. Rex turned to the nearest wall and punched it hard enough to send cracks through reinforced steel. She shouldn't be. If she's loose, it's not just bad. It's apocalyptic. Blip chimed in through a comm device. So let me get this straight. We've just awakened a half-insane super soldier. Our ride is toast. There's another loose monster out there with better stats, and we're stranded on a frozen rock no one cares about. Yes, said JYRN. Excellent, said Blip. We're all going to die in dramatic irony. And yet, in the midst of that absurdity, a story had begun. A story about one soldier waking up centuries too late, one alien making the worst door-opening decision in the galaxy, and a vault that had failed to keep its darkest secrets buried. Whatever came next, alien warlords, clone armies, the rise of Earth's forgotten sins, they would face it. Together. Or they'd all get vaporized trying. Rex stood at the shattered vault door, gazing into the snowstorm outside. If she's out there, he muttered, more to himself than anyone, then the mission isn't over. Not for her. And definitely not for me. Somewhere in the sky, high above Earth's icy tombs, something was watching. And it had just received a signal. Vault 88 was no longer dormant. The wind outside howled like some ancient creature crying through the bones of Earth's forgotten skeleton. High above the Antarctic ruins, JYRN's makeshift camp had been rebuilt with salvaged scrap, reinforced tents, and exactly one heating unit that Rex kept standing over like it was the last fire in humanity. The warmth didn't reach his thoughts. His eyes were fixed on a holographic map projected from Blip's backup system, highlighting scattered locations across the Earth's orbit where signs of movement had been detected. None of them made sense. None of them should have been possible. Unless Subject K9 was no longer hiding. Unless she was making her move. Rex hadn't spoken for hours. The others noticed, but no one dared interrupt the thick storm of whatever stormed inside him. Memories had started returning, as if thawed by his own awakening. Flashes of blood, steel corridors, his hands trembling, her voice over the comms, calm and cold. Ghost had always been different. Not better, not worse. Just precise. She didn't feel things like he did. Where he reacted, she calculated. Where he hesitated, she executed. And somewhere deep in that logic, something must have snapped. Because if she'd woken up before him, and she hadn't come back, then it meant only one thing: she had a plan that didn't involve anyone else. JYRN finally broke the silence, chewing on a thermopack of rehydrated squid jerky. Let's say this ghost lady is out there. Where would she go? What would she want? Rex didn't look away from the map. To finish the job. Which is what exactly? Rex zoomed into the orbital scrapyard rings. She's not looking for people. She's looking for data. Ghost always hated being controlled. If she thinks someone out there still has access to Pandora protocols, she'll burn them out. Blip chimed in with a soft ping. Intercepted transmission 10 hours ago. Unregistered vessel accessed an old government relay. Data siphon detected. Coordinates traced back to an orbital station called the Rust Bucket. The Rust Bucket? JYRN raised a scaly brow. That place is a dump. It's also the last place you'd expect to find military-grade intel, Blip replied. Which makes it exactly where she'd go. Their journey off Earth wasn't easy. They hitchhiked a ride using a stolen distress beacon and convinced a passing garbage hauler to drop them at the station, mostly by promising JYRN's crew would sing a Torkellian folk ballad in exchange. The aliens agreed, and the moment they docked, they sealed the ship behind them like they already regretted the deal. The rust bucket was a mess of floating metal, smoggy bars, forgotten drones, and shady backroom tech markets. Rex hated it instantly. Too loud. Too many smells. Too many reminders of what Earth could have become if everyone stopped pretending to care. As they moved through the crowded halls, whispers followed Rex, partly because he looked like a sculpture of vengeance, and partly because he kept growling at vending machines that didn't carry grape soda. Blip led them to a back-alley scrapyard cafe run by a sentient microwave named Gloria. She was welded into the wall, her voice box stuck in a 1980s sitcom laugh track loop. Gloria knew everything. Or at least she said she did. After several minutes of banter, bribes, and being threatened with unplugging, she finally pointed them toward a data broker named Krigo, a spider-faced technocrat who smelled like boiled batteries. Krigo confirmed it. Someone matching Ghost's description had accessed his systems 3 days ago. She was after a list of Pandora-associated assets, specifically off-world facilities that still held archived DNA templates. Not to use them. To erase them. She paid in stolen tech, never said a word, and left a trail of deactivated drones in her wake. Rex stared at the list, his jaw tightening. One of the sites was marked active. It was on the outer rim, and it had already been accessed by someone else. Not Ghost. They weren't alone. As if on cue, alarms began blaring through the station. The screens around them flickered to an emergency alert. A bounty had just been issued for 2 humans, Subject R001 and Subject K9, alive or mostly intact. Reward, 10 million credits. Issued by a warlord named Zlothar. The name hit like a gut punch. Zlothar, known across the rim as the Collector, was obsessed with biological perfection. He built armies out of stolen DNA, spliced species, and sold living weapons to the highest bidder. And now he wanted Rex and Ghost. Not for justice. For harvesting. Panic erupted in the station as bounty hunters began scanning every corridor. JYRN cursed. "We have to get out of here!" But Rex wasn't running. He pushed Gloria aside and ripped open the back panel of her wall, revealing a long-forgotten maintenance shaft. "We find Ghost. We stop Zlothar. Or the whole galaxy gets 100 versions of me running around breaking vending machines." They barely made it out. With Blip uploaded into a portable projector sphere, they snuck through ducts, shot their way past a few too eager bounty hunters, and finally hijacked a mail pod headed for the coordinates Ghost had previously accessed. The pod was cramped and smelled like old glue. Rex sat in silence, fists clenched. Blip hovered beside him, voice quieter than usual. "You're afraid she's going to do something you won't be able to forgive." Rex didn't respond for a while. Then, softly, "She didn't break down like I did. She stayed sharp. Followed orders. I was the emotional one. The broken one. But when it mattered most, she left me behind." They found her on a shattered outpost floating in the darkness, surrounded by deactivated defense bots. Ghost stood alone, staring out at the stars. She was leaner than Rex, faster, more controlled in every movement. Her eyes glowed a deeper blue. She didn't draw a weapon. She didn't run. She simply turned and said, "You took your time." Rex stepped forward, uncertain. "What are you doing?" "Finishing what they started," she replied. "Deleting everything. Every trace of what they made us. If you're here to stop me, I'll give you 5 minutes. JYRN kept his hand near his belt, unsure which way this would go. Blip said nothing. Rex walked slowly. "I'm not here to stop you. I'm here because Zlothar has our DNA. He's cloning us." That made her blink. Just once. "Then we don't have 5 minutes. They didn't argue. They didn't hug. There was too much pain between them for that. But they understood each other. And in that moment, whatever lines had divided them before began to blur. Blip beeped nervously. "Just so I understand, we're teaming up with a lethal, emotionally repressed super soldier to go stop an even more lethal galactic warlord from building an unstoppable army of emotional wrecks?" "Yes," Rex said. "Perfect," Blip replied. "You know, I used to handle accounting. This is definitely a lateral career move. As the pod drifted away into the stars, the two soldiers sat in silence, side by side. Not as enemies. Not as friends. But as two ghosts chasing the future either of them were ever supposed to have. Zlothar sat on his throne of bone, a grotesque sculpture of vertebrae and femurs from extinct species, as his latest project thrashed against the reinforced walls of the cloning chamber. The beast looked human, mostly. The arms were too long, the eyes too vacant, and the smile, oh, the smile, was wide and wrong. It was built from Rex's DNA, taken from the brief scuffle on the Rust Bucket station. But this creature didn't have Rex's memories, or his emotions, or the nagging sense of guilt that kept him awake in cryo for 2 centuries. This thing only had rage. Blind, unfocused rage. And Zlothar loved it. He turned to his second-in-command, a woman with translucent skin and 8 mechanical limbs. Have the first batch prepared for transport. We sell to the Garidian war hosts first. They'll pay in neutronium, and I want my throne upholstered by next week. Orders received, Supreme Collector, she hissed. What about the original specimens? Zlothar's eyes gleamed. Let them come. Let them see what evolution looks like when it isn't slowed down by conscience. Back aboard their stolen pod, Rex, Ghost, JYRN, and Blip were preparing for the most reckless operation they'd ever considered, boarding Zlothar's flagship, the Glorifice, and shutting down his clone production from the inside. The odds were beyond terrible. The security was legendary. The target was likely expecting them. But for once, they had something Zlothar didn't: experience, desperation, and the mutual understanding that if they didn't stop this, no one would. The plan, if it could be called that, was simple. Ghost would hack the security grid, Blip would upload himself into the ship's janitorbot network to navigate undetected, JYRN would create distractions with his usual chaotic brilliance, and Rex would go straight for the heart of the lab, the DNA vault. Where his future, where hundreds of twisted versions of him, were waiting to be born. The first step was getting aboard. Ghost used her old infiltration codes from a mission she never admitted she'd been part of. The codes still worked, barely. As the pod docked under the Glorifice's vast underbelly, masked by a maintenance override, they slipped inside like blood through a vein. The ship was massive, too large to navigate without help, so Blip downloaded into a nearby maintenance bot, an old rust bucket with only one functioning wheel and a tendency to burst into song whenever it turned left. This body is an insult, Blip muttered through the bot's broken speaker. But I will endure for the cause. As they spread through the ship, the tension grew thick. Ghost moved like a shadow, disabling cameras and guards without a sound. Rex kept trying not to punch every door that didn't open fast enough. JYRN improvised, talking his way past a pair of security drones by pretending to be a celebrity chef delivering organic Torkellian jellyfish to Zlothar's personal kitchen. Meanwhile, Blip rolled through the internal vents, sending location data and sarcastic commentary in equal measure. Warning, I have found the central lab. Also, someone left a smoothie on the cloning terminal. It's strawberry. The monster drinks strawberry. They regrouped near the DNA vault, but what they found wasn't what they expected. It wasn't just Rex's DNA being copied. It was Ghost's too. And dozens of others. Failed super soldiers. Abandoned projects. DNA from war criminals, from extinct assassins, from creatures banned by 5 intergalactic treaties. Zlothar wasn't just making an army. He was making a pantheon of nightmares. Rex stared at the tanks lining the chamber, each one glowing faintly, like an evil idea waiting to hatch. This is wrong, he muttered. These aren't people. They're weapons. Ghost moved beside him, silent. She reached for the control panel. Then let's destroy them. But the moment her fingers touched the screen, alarms screamed. The doors sealed. A voice filled the room, Zlothar's voice, amused and slow like syrup over a knife. Ah, my originals! You made it. Predictable. But still impressive. The chamber walls split open, and out walked the first clone. Not Rex, not exactly. Taller. More muscular. A perfect face with no hint of doubt or fear. A child sculpted from everything Rex was supposed to be, minus the burden of memory. It stared at Rex with hollow eyes and grinned. "I am RKTX-01, it said. "I am what you should have been." Rex didn't respond. He launched himself forward, fists flying. The fight was brutal, silent, fast. Every move Rex made, RKTX mirrored, stronger, faster, with less hesitation. Rex got tossed into a generator. Ghost fired at the clone, but the shots barely slowed it. JYRN grabbed a nearby energy hose and sprayed it wildly, managing to momentarily blind the thing. Blip activated the vault's emergency lockdown. "Might I suggest blowing this place to pieces and discussing our childhood traumas later?" Ghost began uploading a virus into the cloning mainframe, a program she'd secretly been working on for years, coded with the fail-safe keys from Project Pandora. A backdoor, disguised as deletion software. The virus would not only erase the clone blueprints but scramble the DNA data beyond recovery. But there was a cost. It needed a stable sample, one of them, to seed the overwrite. "I'll do it," Rex said, standing, bleeding, shaking. "No," Ghost replied calmly. "I will." He looked at her. "Why?" "Because I started this when I reported you after Helsinki," she said. "I thought I was doing the right thing. But they used that report to bury you alive." The words hit harder than Rex's fists ever could. Rex had always assumed betrayal. But now, hearing the truth, the weight of it dropped like lead. "I wasn't trying to destroy you," Ghost said, as she pressed her palm to the scanner. "I was trying to save what was left of you." The upload began. The virus took hold. Alarms redoubled. Rex screamed and charged. Rex tackled it again, both of them slamming through the wall into the corridor beyond. JYRN grabbed Ghost as the chamber began to shake, Blip yelling something about radiation surges and internal combustion limits. They barely made it to the pod. The explosion lit the side of the Glorifice like a supernova. Fire consumed the vault. Thousands of clone samples evaporated in a brilliant bloom of blue and white. The virus burned through every backup, every external storage link, every redundant archive. Rex never crawled from the wreckage. Inside the pod, silence returned. Ghost sat slumped pale. The virus had taken more than just her DNA. It had drained her body. She was alive. Barely. Rex stared out the window, eyes full of stars and pain. "Zlothar will rebuild," JYRN said, steering them away from the chaos. "Then we stop him again," Rex replied. Blip buzzed, charred but functional. "So, shall I mark this mission as successful with emotional complications?" Nobody laughed. But for the first time in a long time, Rex didn't feel like a weapon. He felt like a man. One who had just helped destroy the worst version of himself. And somewhere behind them, in the wreckage of a god's ego, the future breathed a little easier. The stars outside looked different now, or maybe Rex had just changed too much to see them the same. In the quiet hum of the escape pod, there was a stillness no one wanted to break. Ghost lay resting in the corner, pale and shivering under a thermal blanket. She hadn't spoken since the virus upload, her body still recovering from the extraction. JYRN was at the controls, his usual sarcasm dulled to silence. Blip floated nearby, partially reassembled from the blast damage, his voice box still glitching every fifth syllable. Rex sat near the viewport, his hands clenched, jaw tight, mind racing. He wasn't sure what he was anymore, weapon, man, relic, hero. He only knew that Zlothar was still out there, and he wouldn't stop until everything Rex fought to destroy was rebuilt again, stronger and crueler. They docked with a rebel outpost drifting in the asteroid belt, one of those half-legal stations full of exiles, inventors, mercs who didn't ask questions, and too many cats. The commander of the station, a scar-faced woman named Vesa who once faked her own death to avoid marriage, gave them shelter without hesitation. She didn't care about their history. What mattered was that they'd destroyed Zlothar's vault and bought the galaxy time. Time was the one currency no one could print more of. As Ghost recovered in the medbay, Rex and JYRN worked on patching up their stolen pod into something flight-worthy. Blip helped by refusing to help, offering only snide remarks about their lack of engineering talent. Tension brewed between them like a storm on low boil. Everyone knew Zlothar wouldn't retreat. He'd escalate. He'd rebuild, adapt. He always did. But now, he wasn't just cloning soldiers. He was building an army with a purpose: revenge. And the face of that revenge would be Rex. News came faster than expected. Zlothar's surviving fleet had attacked a border world, not for conquest, but for DNA. Civilians were rounded up, their genetics scanned and harvested. Whole cities were left in ruins, not by bombs, but by selective bioraids. He was no longer trying to create super soldiers, he was trying to create a species. A new dominant race sculpted from the best and worst of humanity, with Rex's DNA as the foundation. If they didn't stop him now, there wouldn't be anything left of what the galaxy used to be. A plan formed, mad and dangerous. Vesa had access to old war era codes buried in the rebel archives, something that could override the AI core controlling Zlothar's new fleet. The trick was getting close enough to upload it. The Glorifice was destroyed, but Zlothar had rebuilt himself a new flagship, 3 times the size and orbiting an abandoned mining moon. They called it the Cathedral. Getting aboard meant flying straight into a hornet's nest with fireworks taped to your face. Ghost insisted she was going with them. Weak as she was, she refused to be sidelined. Rex tried to argue, but she shut him down with one look. They had fought together. They would end this together. JYRN groaned something about suicidal humans but didn't back out. Blip volunteered to be the override carrier. If he got uploaded into the Cathedral's control core, he could trigger a cascade lockdown, disabling the fleet from the inside. It was their only shot. They came in hot and fast, the pod's exterior disguised as asteroid debris, riding a carefully calculated trajectory that bypassed most of the Cathedral's outer scanners. They breached through a ventilation shaft, just like old times, with explosions, bad timing, and zero subtlety. The inside of the Cathedral was worse than they'd imagined: walls of living metal, pulsing with neural pathways, cloning bays already filled with half-formed soldiers twitching in vats. Zlothar had accelerated production. His army was days from deployment. They split up. Ghost took the data center, planting explosives. JYRN headed for the power grid. Rex and Blip made for the AI core, the heart of the Cathedral, guarded by Zlothar himself. The confrontation wasn't cinematic. There was no slow entrance, no speech. Zlothar was waiting, fully armored, part machine now, taller than before, eyes glowing like dying suns. The fight was brutal, immediate, personal. Rex fought like a man possessed, not to win, but to stop a future that had his face and none of his soul. Zlothar mocked him as they battled, speaking of legacy, of evolution, of a galaxy shaped in Rex's image. "You were a blueprint, nothing more," he sneered, throwing Rex into a support column. "You think your pain gives you depth. It gives you weakness. My creations will never cry over a dead dog or doubt their orders." But that was the difference. That was the point. Rex fought because of his pain, not despite it. His failures, his regrets, his emotions, they were his compass. He didn't need to be perfect. He just needed to be human. Blip accessed the AI core while Rex kept Zlothar busy. The upload began, slow and fragile. Ghost's voice came over the comms, saying the bombs were armed. JYRN reported total chaos in the engine room. Everything was going wrong. Or right. Hard to tell with this crew. Zlothar went for the core, trying to stop Blip. Rex grabbed him from behind, locking him in a hold that triggered every muscle enhancement he had left. "You don't get to win," Rex growled. Zlothar's armor cracked. The core overloaded. The system began to fry. Blip, with final sarcasm, said, "Goodbye, cruel server," and detonated his own core, taking the AI down in a cascade of corrupted data and viral logic. The Cathedral shook. Systems failed. Clone vats boiled. Sirens howled. Rex dragged himself to the escape corridor, barely conscious. Ghost met him halfway, bleeding from her side, teeth clenched. JYRN arrived in a stolen escape ship, dented and smoking. They boarded and blasted out of the dying cathedral seconds before the whole station erupted in a white-hot bloom of shattered dreams and twisted ambition. They drifted for hours in silence afterward, surrounded by wreckage and stars. Ghost leaned against the wall, her eyes closed. JYRN finally laughed, exhausted and wild. I'm never opening a vault again. Ever. Not even if it says free snacks. Rex stared at the ceiling of the ship, not speaking. He didn't feel like a hero. He felt like a man who had barely stopped a flood with a sandbag. But he was alive. Ghost was alive. The war was paused, if not ended. And for the first time in a long time, no one was chasing him. Later, they landed on a neutral moon to recover. They were unknown, just 3 figures stepping out of a broken ship. Ghost walked ahead without limping. JYRN lit a cigar he'd been saving. Rex held a small, wriggling puppy in his arms, found among the wreckage. He named it Biscuit. As they walked into the sunrise, a signal crackled through a nearby comm tower. It was old. Military grade. Clean and direct. This is Earth Command. Project Pandora assets, report to Mars Base Alpha immediately. You are not decommissioned. You are reactivated. Rex looked at Ghost. She didn't say a word. JYRN just groaned. Rex turned toward the sky and whispered, almost to himself, I guess I'm not the last mistake Earth ever made. And somewhere in the shadows of space, someone else heard the signal too. And they smiled. The signal from Mars Base Alpha hung in the air like an echo from a dead god. No one spoke as it repeated, mechanical and sterile, demanding obedience from soldiers the world had once locked away and forgotten. For Rex, it was like being pulled back into the grave he just clawed his way out of. He stood at the edge of the landing pad on the neutral moon, holding Biscuit in one arm, staring into the dust-choked horizon. Behind him, the ship creaked softly in the heat, and Ghost sat on its ramp with her eyes closed, pretending she wasn't listening. But they all were. Even JYRN, who had just fixed the pod's water recycler for the 10th time that week, stood frozen with a wrench in hand, the blood draining from his alien face. It wasn't a request. The voice was too precise, too confident, too recent. That meant someone on Mars had access to Pandora codes. Someone who believed they still had command over Rex and Ghost. That alone was terrifying. Because the only people who could do that were either part of the original Black Site program, or someone who'd resurrected it. Neither option meant anything good. Especially after Zlothar. Especially after everything they'd burned to the ground. Ghost opened her eyes. She didn't look at Rex, just stared straight ahead. Her voice was calm, but distant. We should ignore it. We can't, Rex said low. If someone out there is still running Pandora ops, they might be making more of us. Then let them, she replied. Let them suffer the same mistake. JYRN tossed the wrench down with a hollow clank. You're telling me we survived evil clones, exploding space palaces, and warlord collectors just to go toward the next lunatic with a command center? Rex didn't answer. He couldn't. Part of him wanted to walk away, to disappear into the stars and let history crumble behind him. But another part, the part that had punched through steel doors and carried the weight of 1,000 regrets, knew that wasn't how it worked. The only way to stop the cycle was to find the root and burn it. Not with rage this time. With clarity. With purpose. They refueled the ship, reprogrammed the navigation, and flew in silence. The closer they got to Mars, the quieter everything seemed. No calm traffic, no orbital chatter, no welcoming beacons. The base hadn't just been hidden, it had been erased from public record, tucked into a shadow between hemispheres, buried under layers of outdated topography. From orbit, it looked like nothing. Just red dust and old ridges. But when they descended, the terrain shimmered, and the illusion dropped. Mars Base Alpha emerged from nothingness, a ghost city made of reinforced chrome and forgotten sins. They landed at the edge of a crumbling launch platform, the only docking spot not sealed by automated defense systems. The base was massive, quiet, too intact to be abandoned. As they stepped out, the gravity slightly heavier than Earth, Ghost scanned the area with a blank expression. "This isn't a graveyard," she said. "It's a trap." Rex led the way. He didn't need to speak. Every corridor confirmed what he feared. No dust. No decay. Everything powered. Lights humming. Doors reacting to their biosignatures. The base had been expecting them. Blip, now installed into a new portable drone with rotating arms and an actual volume knob, hovered close to Rex's shoulder. "We're being watched," he muttered. "Someone has tapped the internal systems. Cameras aren't static. They're tracking." JYRN spun in a slow circle, gripping a stolen plasma rifle. "I'm getting serious betrayal energy from this place. Like a bad ex who says they've changed but still keeps your toothbrush out of spite." They found the central command chamber at the heart of the base. Inside, a single figure sat before a sprawling console of flickering monitors. The man was old, in a clinical, undying way. His skin was pale from years underground. His hair gray and combed with military precision. He turned slowly, expression unreadable, and said, "Caden. Subject R001. I see cryorot didn't dull your sense of punctuality." Rex stiffened. "Who are you?" The man stood. "I'm the one who built you." Ghost's breath hitched. Dr. Elias Morrow. The lead architect of Project Pandora. Presumed dead in 2071 after the facility in Iceland was destroyed during a rebel raid. But clearly he had survived. And worse, he had continued the work. Morrow spoke calmly, like he was giving a lecture. "You were never failures. You were just early prototypes. Too unpredictable. Too flawed. But now, with Lothar's demise, the genetic data he stole is back in circulation. And with that chaos gone, it's time to reboot the mission." "You're joking," JYRN said. "You waited centuries to restart a nightmare?" "It wasn't a nightmare," Morrow replied. "It was evolution. Unshackled by morality." Rex stepped forward. "We destroyed the clones. The vault. The data. You can't reboot anything." Morrow smirked. "That's where you're wrong. You didn't destroy all of it. You missed something. One sample. Preserved. Hidden in the Martian ice. The true prototype." Ghost moved without thinking. Her pistol raised. "End this. Now." But Morrow didn't flinch. "If you kill me, you won't find where the final subject is. And you'll be too late." Rex grabbed him by the collar, lifting him off the ground. "Where is it?" Morrow only smiled. "Why ask me? You'll remember soon enough." Suddenly, the walls shook. Sirens blared. Blip spun in place, alarmed. "Incoming vessel. No IFF. It's oh no." JYRN backed up toward the door. "What did you do, Doc?" Morrow laughed as lights flickered red. "I sent out the recall signal to all active Pandora strains. You think you were the only two who woke up? The others, they've evolved on their own. And now they're coming home." The base went dark for a second. Then emergency lights clicked on, bathing everything in crimson. Rex turned to Ghost. Their eyes met, a thousand thoughts unspoken. They weren't the last. Outside, a black dropship touched down. Its doors opened. Figures stepped out, half human, half something else. Faster. Taller. No emotion in their eyes. The future Morrow had dreamed of. But Rex didn't flinch. He stepped between the exit and his team, fists clenched, jaw locked. "We end this here," he said. Ghost moved to his side. "No second chances." JYRN checked his plasma rifle. "No refunds either." Blip sighed. "Guess we're doing the suicide plan again." The doors hissed open. And the war for what humanity had left began.